Great. So what am I here for? This is a familiar place and a familiar stage, and some of you are attended my previous sessions. But today it's going to be a different version, and it's called NBV. What's NBV? The next best version. I'm going to acknowledge and confess to all of you in front of camera that I have an addiction. I'm deeply addicted to this, and I get a kick. And that kick comes from next best version. I'm going to explain, I'm going to demonstrate as well on how do I get that kick in terms of next best version. And you're going to be witness for that. So why is next best version important? The NBV. So let me start with Stephen Covey's second habit, if you recall. Begin with the end. So I'm going to begin with the end. Let me tell you what is the end of this session, the next 18 minutes. You'll walk away with two things. One, you will witness me demonstrating the next best version of myself. And in the process, you will get some techniques, ideas, which may resonate with you, we may connect. And if you make connection, you might take it back home. And that's what you're going to do, right? So I'm going to demonstrate my next best version, and you're going to be witnessing that and learn some techniques. Only if in life we had the NBB, next best birth. There is no rush for NBV, next best version. Unfortunately, there is no guarantee for next birth. While some believe, but there is no guarantee. So there is a rush for next best version. All of us, whatever age, whatever generation we belong to, there is a need for next best version. And how do we get there? The fundamental question, right? It's easy to say, well, all of us need to get there, but how do we get there? So what I did is I did a lot of research throughout my life. From the time I found the need for next best version, for me it was a situation pushed me into finding my next best version. I'll talk about it later. I researched through interviews and interactions with multiple different generations, starting baby boomers, Gen X, my generation, Gen Y, Gen Z. Some of you I would have interacted. I'm still in interaction with some of the people who are in Gen Z. And Alpha generation as well, my son and my son's friends. I asked everybody, whomever I come across, so what is your next best version? What drives you to get the next best version? But have you identified your next best version, right? And it is a continuous process. It's a journey. It doesn't stop once you find your next best version, then you move on to the next. It's a continuous process. So how do we get there? A simple formula based on all this research I have done with all the multiple generations of all genders. Quote you, all genders, right? I came up with something called TEDx. TEDx. You heard it right. TEDx, that's called TEDask. TEDask. Let me explain that. It's a meaningful coincidence that it is a TEDx show, and the TEDask is the formula for how do you find your next best version. T for talent, E for energy, D for demonstration, A for attitude, S for skills, K for knowledge. You would have heard ASK very often, and this TED is added to that. So how do you use this formula to get there? Talent. Gallup has done enormous study on talent. I recommend look at Strength Finder from Gallup. It talks about every human being by birth. We have innate talent. We have a natural strength. We are born with some strengths, born with some talent. We have to discover that. Unfortunately, we don't spend enough time on ourselves, self-discovery to find out our innate talent. It's a part of our DNA in a way, right? So that's the talent part. E, energy. In some form, we are all part of the universal energy. And we have something called unique energy. Each one carries a unique power. So one has to self-discover to find what's your energy. It could be an energy level. It could be energy which drives you. That's why you call it as passion. So one has to find that. D, I'll park that for a minute. I'll come back to that. ASK, which is very common, and I'm sure you understand. A for attitude, S for skills, and K for knowledge. I'm not going to elaborate that. Now, how do you bring all this together? The D is a demonstration. When you demonstrate all of this put together, then you are able to find your next best version. Now, the fundamental question is, how do we make all this happen? So let me give you some formula. Mathematically, if you look at the T and E is equal to A. That is, the talent and energy drives you towards your attitude. Because you can't get your attitude without these two. Because your innate strength and your energy takes you to a positive attitude. Just remember this. Now, knowledge, a fundamental problem in our education system as well, knowledge not necessarily gets converted into skill when you go into corporates or when you go into the free world. The people struggle for that is because they do not know that attitude is the one which helps you to convert the knowledge to skill. So knowledge minus attitude, you will not get new skills, right? So it's very important that knowledge plus A, that is attitude, is equal to skills. Now, the talent and energy leads to attitude. The knowledge and attitude takes you to skill. And if you have all of that, and if you demonstrate, the demonstrated behaviors, we call it as, that is what will take you to the next best version. What is the use of knowing many things, but you don't know what to do with that? What is the use of you have lots of skill, but you don't know how to apply? And whatever you apply, if others are not seeing, how do you get validated? Right? So remember this TED Ask. It's easy to remember because it's very close to why you're sitting today, why I'm here today. This will take you into that. Now, is there a formula or is there a framework for this formula? Right? It's easy. I can remember this TED Ask, but how do I use it in a framework? Yeah, universal framework, well-known management concept. I don't have to introduce something new. The Johari window, right? If you've not heard of that, it has 4 quadrants. One is I know, you know, which is called open window. I know, you don't know, which is called hidden. I do not know, you know, which is the blind spot. And I do not know, you do not know, which is the discovery part, to be discovered. Bring that and put it into the TED Ask. Now, as you're in the process of self-discovery, the first thing to do is to go to your open window to see how much of myself I know and how much of that I've demonstrated to the world. Simple? But it's not as simple as you think, because the research says many of us do not know who we are. Constantly we look for outside person to tell who you are. So if you're able to go deeper and understand your natural strength, that is the talent, then if you're able to use that, leverage that, it comes to the external world. So try and open your window as much as you can, right? And similarly, the hidden. If you know you are somebody, and if you're not able to bring it to the demonstration state, which is to the others, probably I think you may have to revisit to see how do you apply that so that others can see. That's how you grow, right? Your next best version. Third, seek feedback. Ask others, trusted friends, trusted partners. A lot of people are willing to help you to find your next best version. The problem is we don't ask. So go and ask people who can give you feedback. That helps you to uncover your blind spot, right? To the topic of NMMS. Now, self-discovery or to be discovered, there are 40 to 80% opportunity depending on where you are in your life cycle. It's a huge opportunity to discover, right? So this formula would help. So you have TED Ask and you have this framework of Johari window. If you use these 4 quadrants and this, you're on your way to next best version. Now, I wanted to talk about 2 things. One is story, which all of us know. I'll reflect the story and connect to this, and I'll tell my personal story before I wind up. You know this rabbit and tortoise story, right? All of us grew with this. This is an ancient Greek story. There are multiple versions have come. Some management gurus have worked on it. And if you connect that to the TED Ask, beautifully it sits, right? The story goes like this in a fast forward Twitter version, I'll tell you, where the rabbit and tortoise went for a race. And who won? Tortoise won because rabbit was complacent, stepped back, slept for a while, and lost the race. What's the message for all of us? The moral: slow and steady wins the race, right? And this continued, the version 2, where there was a self-discovery by rabbit. My innate talent is to run fast. Why did I lose? Because of the attitude, right? So then it worked on attitude, then called for another race. Both of them went for the same race. This time it ran fast, and the innate talent is to run fast. And fundamentally, tortoise cannot win because of the natural lack of strength to run fast. And the tortoise lost and rabbit won. What is the message? Fast and agile takes you to success faster. But now what happened? Version 3. The tortoise went for a discovery process, self-discovery. How do I win, given that I have this limitation? And it called for another race where they changed the play field. And in this process, what happened? There is a water and land. So in the land, rabbit ran fast. And at the water point, innately it cannot swim. And tortoise came slow, jumped into the water, went to the winning spot and won the race. Now, what is the message here? Sometimes you need to rethink, innovate, right? Finally, they both become good friends and they wanted to run another race. Then they went in the same field where on the land, rabbit carried the tortoise and the water, the tortoise carried the rabbit. They both won the race. It's a win-win. So connected back to the TED Ask, it's a wonderful way of using your innate strength, not self-limiting, but finding a way to come forward and find your new best version, whether it is against the situation or it is against yourself. There is also always a self-pride and there is a self-contentment. So I wanted to leave you with the last message, which is, as you go through your NBV, what will stop you is your own limitations, self-limits and self-doubts. You know where it comes from? It comes from a place called self-bias. You have your own bias to not to find your next best version. So how do you come out of that? One, self-inclusion. If you don't value you, nobody else will value you. So self-value and self-complacence is very different. So be aware of the thin line difference between these two. Second, self-critic. Right? The competition has to be self. Very simple. In athletes, always it happens. I did 100 meters in 12 seconds. Next year, you make it to 10 seconds. You break your own record. When you're not in the rat race of competing with others, there is a great level of contentment, great level of pride, great level of self-esteem, and you are finding your next best version. And the other point, which is very important, is the self-bias. If you don't break it, you will stereotype yourself as, I am not this, I can't do this, and that is what is stopping you. So be self-inclusive, self-compete, and make sure you are self-conscious of yourself. Give self-coaching, and that will take you to the next best version. I found my next best version today in front of you. Are you ready for that? Thank you so much.